Welcome to the first echo, where the past isn't finished speaking. Long before Rome rose to power, before most of Europe had formed kingdoms, there stood a civilization along a river in northeast Africa that already felt ancient to its own people. That civilization was Egypt. It grew along the Nile River, a long ribbon of water cutting through desert. Every year, the Nile flooded its banks. When the waters pulled back, they left behind rich, dark soil. That soil allowed crops to grow. Crops fed the population. Food created stability. Stability created power. The Egyptians did not see this as a natural accident. They believed the flooding of the Nile, the rising of the sun, the changing of seasons, and even life and death were controlled by divine beings. Egypt had many gods. There was a god for the sun, a god for the afterlife, a god for the sky, a god for wisdom, and countless others. Some gods were imagined with human bodies and animal heads. Some represented natural forces. Each city often had its favorite god. Over time, one god in particular became extremely important: Amun. The priests who served Amun became wealthy and powerful. They owned land. They managed temples filled with gold and offerings. In many ways, they were becoming a force nearly equal to the king himself. The king of Egypt was called the pharaoh. Egyptians believed the pharaoh was not just a political ruler, but a sacred figure. He was seen as a bridge between the gods and the people. If the gods were pleased, Egypt would prosper. If the gods were angry, famine or invasion might follow. Religion was not separate from government. It was woven into everything. Around 1353 BCE, a young man named Amenhotep IV became pharaoh. His name meant Amun is satisfied, which shows just how central the god Amun was to Egyptian identity. At first, his reign seemed normal. But gradually, something unusual began to happen. Amenhotep IV started focusing his attention on a different god, a god called Aten. Aten was not depicted as a man or an animal. Aten was simply the sun disk itself, shown as a glowing circle in the sky with rays extending downward like hands. Instead of worshipping many gods, Amenhotep began elevating Aten above all others. Then he did something that shocked the foundations of Egyptian society. He began shutting down the temples of other gods, especially those dedicated to Amun. The names of Amun were carved out of monuments. Statues were destroyed. Priests lost their positions and influence. This was not a minor religious reform. For a civilization that had honored multiple gods for over 1,000 years, this was a direct challenge to its identity. Amenhotep IV went even further. He changed his own name to Akhenaten, which means effective for Aten. By doing this, he publicly declared his loyalty to the new religious direction and turned his back on the traditional order. Akhenaten did not stop with temples and names. He abandoned Thebes, the great city associated with Amun, and ordered the construction of an entirely new capital in the desert. He called it Akhenaten, meaning Horizon of Aten. This city was built from nothing. It was positioned in a place that had no prior religious ties. It was, in a sense, a fresh start. The temples there were different from older Egyptian temples. Instead of dark inner chambers meant to house hidden statues of gods, these temples were open to the sunlight. Worship centered directly on the sun's rays. Even the art of Egypt changed under Akhenaten. For centuries, Egyptian art had followed strict rules. Pharaohs were always shown strong, idealized, and perfect. Under Akhenaten, figures became elongated and unusual. Faces were narrow, bodies were softer. The king was sometimes shown in intimate family scenes with his queen, Nefertiti, and their children. These images were personal and different from anything Egypt had seen before. It was as if the old rules were being rewritten not only in religion, but in culture itself. Some historians believe Akhenaten may have been the first ruler in history to promote a form of monotheism, the belief in one god instead of many. Others believe his actions were political as much as spiritual. By eliminating powerful priesthoods and focusing worship on one god connected closely to himself, he centralized authority. If there was only one god, and the pharaoh was that god's chosen representative, then all power flowed directly through him. Akhenaten ruled for about 17 years. Then he died. What happened next was swift and dramatic. His city was abandoned, his monuments were dismantled, his statues were smashed. His name was removed from official king lists. It was as if Egypt wanted to erase him from memory. The young king who followed him was originally named Tutankhaten, meaning living image of Aten. Soon, that name was changed to Tutankhamun, meaning living image of Amun. The old gods returned, the old temples reopened, the priests regained their influence. Akhenaten's attempt to transform Egypt did not survive him. Within a generation, his religious revolution had collapsed. For centuries, his story was nearly forgotten, buried beneath the sands and the deliberate silence of history. What makes Akhenaten remarkable is not just that he tried to change religion. It is that he tried to reshape the identity of an entire civilization that had been stable for over 1,000 years. He challenged traditions that were deeply rooted in daily life. For a brief moment, he succeeded in redirecting Egypt's spiritual path. But the moment he was gone, the old beliefs returned with force. His story leaves a powerful question behind. Can one leader truly change what a civilization believes? Or are traditions stronger than any single ruler? Akhenaten attempted to remove the gods of Egypt and replace them with one. In the end, Egypt removed him instead. Yet the fact that we still speak his name today shows that even failed revolutions can echo across thousands of years. If stories like this remind you that history is not dead, it's just echoing, then like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. Because the past still has more to say. Thank you.